Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speak Your Truth podcast. I'm Kristen Bomas, and we are on a conscious journey to enlightenment. Today, I'm going to answer a question that has been posed to me in various ways, but by many, many people. And that's a question that goes something like this. I feel like I am an open communicator. I talk all the time to my partner, and I tell him or her what's going on, but he or she just doesn't communicate. And, what am I supposed to do if I'm communicating and they are not? So let's look at that. And like I said, that question comes out in many, many, many styles and forms. But what is it about a partnership and communication? And if you feel you're communicating but your partner is not, what can you do about that? So let's talk about that for a little bit. We have, in my world, I teach to communicate from the inside of you. So what that means is you want to learn how to communicate about you, for you, and from you. That's your job. It's not how you learn to communicate, but your job is to learn to communicate all about you from the inside out. So in a partnership, that becomes particularly important because you want to teach your partner who you are. You want him or her to know your dreams, your thoughts, what you like, what you don't like, but you want that person to know everything about your person. And they're not going to know that if you're constantly telling them about them. So oftentimes when I hear people say they communicate very well, they start giving me examples, and the examples are they're telling their partner what to do and what not to do. Okay, that's a start. But what does your partner learn about you when you're telling them what they are to do and not do because you don't like what they do and what they don't do? And when you do this and when you do that and when you do this, they're not learning about you. So how do we open this up? The first thing that we want to do is learn how to be aware of where we're telling them about them and not teaching them about us. Because the more we teach our partner about ourselves, the more that person can then become aware of what we're feeling, what we're about, and make a decision to change. Now let's go one step further. Let's say we are communicating in that way and we're teaching about ourselves, but our partner just still doesn't get it. And I hear this a lot in the course of that. Oh, yeah, well, I could say all that, but this is what's going to happen. Nothing. They're not going to say anything. Or they're going to disagree and say, well, that's about you. That doesn't have anything to do with me. Or they're going to say this or they're going to say that. Well, your assumption that they are going to respond in a different way is anchored in your own ego, wanting a different kind of response. What if we just took that out of the equation completely? And what if talking to your partner and simply telling him or her what you're feeling and being true to your own integrity, what if that's all we ask you to do? And then to sit back and watch what happens. So if we do that and your partner comes back and says, oh, I can't stand it when you get this deep. I can't stand it when you start talking to me about this stuff. I'm just not into it. And you say, okay, what would you like to know about me then? Anything at all? Or would you rather not know me? And what if you're able to stay so centered in yourself that the next time they come back and they make assumptions about you, you say, I've been attempting to show you who I am. And now you make assumptions about me that show you don't know me at all. So now what happens for that other person? That other person now is in a bit of a bind because they think they're communicating in those itsy bitsy moments, and they're not. Again, you're learning nothing about them. So now let's go even another direction with all of this. And let's say that you are communicating, or let's say that you stop communicating because you think they're going to respond. In the absence of communicating, you're still communicating. So in the absence of your communication, you are prompting the other person to live within their assumptions. And a person who lives within their assumptions lives within a storyline that's fixed from the past. And so never will know who you are in truth because you're in a constant state of growth in one way or another. Let's look at another angle. You're communicating. The other person is not. If you make a change in the way you're communicating, you will, by nature, create change in the relationship. So what does that mean? Well, whatever your style of communicating is now, what if we put a little bit of a twist to it so that that other person who's not communicating is left feeling the absence of their own communication. And you start to make decisions based upon a style of communication you want. But before you do that, you say that to your partner. So let me see if I can create an example for this. I'm in a relationship and I would really like to know more about my partner and the thoughts, the dreams, and the desires for an ideal partnership to them. And I put that out there, and nothing comes back. And I look at them and I say, I asked you a question and you never responded. And they say, I'm just not into your deep questions. I'm just not really there. Okay. Two things happen inside me. One is, do I really want to remain in a partnership with someone whose style of communicating doesn't allow this relationship to grow or deepen or change with me or in the direction I am changing and wish to be changing? And that's the very first question I have to ask myself, because I could be in a relationship with someone I love, but they're no longer an ideal partner because the communication style has drifted us far apart from one another. But another option could be, okay, let me explain again what this means to me, to my partner. And I sit back and I say, that's a choice you make, and I can respect your lack of interest and desire to go in that direction. So I ask you what you want in a partnership, because if you're not happy in this one because I go too deep, then what are you doing in a relationship with me? And now all of a sudden that person can't keep the same pattern alive. They have to think about the question you're asking them, because you're aware of what's going on inside yourself enough to put that question back on the table, kind of forcing them, but not really, because they still have their free will. But you're giving them the option to make a choice in terms of how they're communicating. And we can always ask questions to our partners. So when they're not communicating well, what does it feel like for you? Did you feel ignored? Did you feel unimportant? Did you feel misunderstood? Are you frustrated? And if you are frustrated, remember that with frustration, there is some sort of helplessness there. And where do you feel helpless or stuck, or like you can't get things to change or go the way you want them to go? So what is that about for you? And you want to think about that. You want to sit back. It's all about you. We can judge our partner as not being a good communicator all day long, but that doesn't do us any good. It's not going to move the relationship. We can blame them when communication breaks down, but that doesn't do any good. The only thing that's going to help you move forward in your relationship, and more importantly in your life, is to ask yourself what you would like to see in return, and then share that with your partner. I get very frustrated sometimes when I don't hear back from you. I care about you, dear, and you're not giving back to me. I feel compassion for what it must be like for you not wanting to communicate in the way I communicate, but that doesn't mean I don't need something back from you as well. Are you interested in learning what I need? Are you interested in learning about me? What can I do to help you move forward? There are many, many ways to gently and compassionately open the door for communication with that partner. But as soon as you try to force and push or condemn or judge or blame, then you're going to get shut down defensiveness again and again and again. And oftentimes that's what inadvertently happens. So I want to mention one more thing to you as we look at this, because it's really a pretty cool little piece. Emotion is energy before it turns into a feeling and becomes physical. And so it's a constant, right? So we have fear-based emotions and love-based emotions, and the fear-based emotions make us feel kind of restricted and kind of tucked back, and the love-based emotions expand us and they make us feel great. Okay, so if in fact that's the case, then if you're feeling a lot of love when you're speaking, that person is going to open themselves to you. But what if I'm fearful of telling you something because you never respond, and I'm frustrated with you and I don't want to do it, and I'm going to give it one more shot, and here it is. Well, they see the fear, they see the tightness, they see what's going on, and they pull back. And now, in their defensiveness, I'm going to get more defensive, or you're going to get more defensive, and guess what's going to happen? They're going to get more defensive. And so all of a sudden, boom, 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 you're going back again, right? So if you keep doing that, all you're doing is creating greater division between the two of you rather than opening it up and closing up the gap between the two of you. So when you are looking at judging their style of communication rather than questioning it, you're creating that division immediately upon the judgment. It can be healed, it can be closed, that gap can be closed or bridged, but you still have to ask yourself first what you wish to do about the gap. And then gently and with compassion, open up those doors to ask more questions. Maybe you are the only one who communicates. Maybe your partner is shy. Maybe your partner is someone who is of few words, but when they do speak, they speak profoundly and to the point. Maybe that's their style. If that's their style, we can judge it all day long. It's not going to change. But just because that's their style, it doesn't mean that they don't want to know who you are and listen to what you're about. Maybe they're a great listener. If they don't speak and they're a poor listener, maybe you have some things to talk about. If that partner, no matter what you say, is not willing to change, then I ask you, why are you staying in the partnership? Because communication is absolutely the basis of all relationships and will either help grow that relationship infinitely or bring it to a screeching halt or divide it severely or gently. But communication is clearly the basis of all relationships. So if you feel that you are the better communicator and your partner is not communicating in the way you wish him or her to communicate, then immediately go to your partner and ask where they're standing. Ask why they don't speak as much. Express to them what you need and see what happens at that point. And then think about all the other points that I brought up today. And ultimately, it's your choice. If the communication in the relationship is not fulfilling, then how fulfilling is the relationship? So let's all take care of ourselves and with compassion take care of each person around us. And I hope today helps you take one step forward towards unity in your partnership. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to talking with you and hearing your feedback. Thank you for subscribing if you like what you heard. Have a great day.